Okay, we are recording. Sarah, you wanted to say something?
I said I think you should have something about homophilia as well as homophobia, because I'm just the only lady here for some strange reason. I wonder why. And if it's just, I don't mean just, but if it is around the concept of the nude / homophobia and action, it's a little bit, it involves many negative emotions, and I think we should have some positive emotions here. And if you want someone to volunteer, I can volunteer about homophilia and loving men of all sorts.
Sarah, this is great that you brought up the concept of homophilia, because it, of course, is connected very strongly with Angus Reid's exhibition. On the one hand, the exhibition visually and archivally, in an archival way, documents the history of homophobia in the 20th century, but on the other hand, in those paintings, the male nudes, which are erotic male nudes, in his exhibitions, it is a show about homophilia, how the love between men and the tenderness and the eroticism between men is some kind of fight on the one hand, but some kind of remedy towards the homophobia that we have experienced both in the East and in the West of Europe. And I don't want to talk about my work, about the male nude in 20th century art, but I want to talk about the male nude in relation to Angus Reid's exhibition, because that is why we are meeting today via Zoom in this new pandemic era. I think that what is wonderful about the exhibition is the intertextual character of the show, that it combines very many narrations and stories and spaces and peoples from different periods, because it combines the East of Europe and the West of Europe. The past and the now. And also it combines France, Russia, Poland, England, Scotland, and the legal systems in those countries through the character of Harry White and through the unfortunate plight of Tomek in 21st century Poland. So the connection between the East and the West, the past and the moment of now is really a wonderful character of the exhibition. And what is especially telling is the location of the exhibition in the War Memorial Gallery that is supposed to commemorate war heroes. So the subject of masculinity and some kind of subversion of masculinity through anti-heroic stance of homosexuality in 20th century is also something very telling. So I love the intertextuality of the show, and at the very center of the intertextuality is the genre of the male nudes. And I think that, Sarah, you would agree with me that when you look at Angus's paintings, they look like academic male nudes. They look like 18, sometimes 19 or 20th century academic male nudes. They seem to be very clean and very decontextualized studies of the male bodies, even though we know from the description of the exhibition that these are men whom you met or whom you encounter in gay saunas in Edinburgh, in Scotland. So this is the contemporary connection, but they are very much representative of the tradition of the male nude, the academic male nude, which was very apolitical and asocial. It was just the study of the male body. And you completely twisted the tradition, making it very erotic and very intimate on the one hand, and on the other hand, very historical, embedded in all the historical narration.
Can I interrupt? Just join. I don't see it as erotic. I see
but I do. I think that the four men that are touching together, this is an erotic male nude. And let me finish only one idea that I want to bring up right now, that we have to remember that homosexuality was criminalized in the 20th century, up to the 60s, up to the 80s in Scotland. And at the same time, in the 20th century art, the male nude was criminalized as well. Not only homosexuality as a political act and as a sexual act was criminalized, but also the male nude was criminalized, and because it was censored. Up to the 1970s, it was impossible, especially in the 20th century, to show the male genitalia. So you are examining through your exhibition the criminalization of the genre of the male nude and the criminalization of the homosexuality as well.
Why, Andrew, do you not see it as erotic? What do you see?
Maybe because I am gay, and maybe because I painted so many male nudes, because that's the other thing that I do. I see it as work. I see it as painting. And in the same way, I think that Titian quite often didn't see his female nudes as erotic. Other people saw them as erotic. I see it as a fine bit of painting and a great composition, and most of all, intimate. It's the intimacy which strikes me first, not even the nudity.
But I think that the history of sexuality is something very important for the exhibition and for the context of the exhibition, because I would like to point out that we don't only have the male nudes in the exhibition, we also have a historical photographs of men from the 30s in Scotland who were persecuted and imprisoned for homosexual acts, and probably some of them were male prostitutes.
Yes, no,
according to the press release. So I think that the whole exhibition is very deeply embedded in the history of sexuality. Not
absolutely,
Scotland,
absolutely, and that's why I wanted to be involved with it, and that's what I think it's important. But I
totally agree that the quality of the paintings is exquisite, and what is even better, that the very good academic paintings are combined with very rich historical analysis of sexual politics in the 20th century.
And very real people, real situation, as well as the historical one. So, I mean, in my opinion, it has everything. If the paintings had been second-rate or simply illustratively taken from somewhere else, the exhibition would not have anywhere near the impact which I think it has.
I would like to add only one historical fact to our discussion, and I think that the exhibition is embedded in this fact, and it refers to this historical material that in the 30s and in the 40s and in the 50s, the most severe oppression against gay men was experienced by gay men in Great Britain, including Scotland, of course, and by gay men in the Soviet Russia. The highest number of imprisonment and persecutions were in Britain, which was a capitalist and democratic country, and was in the totalitarian Soviet Russia. And this exhibition, through the character of Harry White, who was Scottish, at the same time involved in Russian communism as a journalist, brilliantly bring this historical fact to the level, to the most visible level for contemporary historical understanding of the situation, that we are dealing with two countries, Great Britain, which now considers itself a very liberal country, but that was even more oppressive in certain moments, especially in the 50s, than Soviet Union was when it comes to sexuality. So I think that sexual oppression is something very much which is also visible in the exhibition, through the photograph of imprisoned homosexuals, through the story of Eastern Europe now and Tomek's trouble in Poland, but also through the special quality of those paintings. Those paintings are not only male nudes, they are not only intimate, and they are not only erotic. There is also something very traumatic in them. That is why they're interesting.
Sarah wanted to say something here.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I mean, speaking from London, where there are all sorts of gay activities and things like the Tate Gallery did its big anniversary exhibition and so on and so forth, and where the ruling elite is all gay because it all goes to public schools, whether or not it was legal or illegal. Could the platform not be more both celebratory and insouciant? Because I mean, why should you give a toss, frankly? You should give a toss historically speaking, but I don't think that behaving as though you're a persecuted minority is the way to behave, frankly. I personally think if you've got it, flaunt it, like Oscar Wilde and everybody else, and that people should just think they've got to catch up.
I would like to disagree with Sarah and with Andrew, because your attitude is a little bit, we are too cool for school with this kind of subject. And I would like to remind you that what is very good in the exhibition is the association between homosexuality and someone who is a revolutionary. And
Yes.
as a homosexual, I can be a revolutionary. So we have to remember about three things. First of all, homosexuality was decriminalized during the French Revolution and then during the Soviet Revolution. So two of the most important revolutions in the early modern European and modern European history decriminalized homosexuality. So it is an obvious link between homosexuality and revolution. Plus, I would like to remind Sarah that the exhibition at Tate Britain about queer Britain was very, very overdue. And the queer community in London was struggling for 20 years to have this kind of major exhibition in the major institution in London. This kind of exhibitions were organized before everywhere, including in Poland, and only in 2015, in the 21st century, it was organized by Tate Britain. So
I think it was in 17.
It was also a very revolutionary subject to have. And if you look at the far-right regimes globally right now, during the pandemic, in places like Russia, Poland, Hungary, Brazil, they're all extremely homophobic against LGBTQ people, both gays and lesbians, and especially transgender people, which testify to the constant revolutionary aspect of sexual dissidence.